And hello everyone, and welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I am your host, Coach Helix, and with me I have my wonderful co-host,
Steven the Medium is here.
Steven the Medium. So Steelix is in the house, and you guys are up for an amazing hour as we're gonna make you laugh. We are going to make you think, and you're gonna have a wonderful time together. So today I'm super excited, Steven, because I have a lot to say about the show. The title of the show is Transition with Power, Presence, and Peace, and there's a whole lot of intention behind that because I'm going through transition of my own, and don't say anything, Kathy, okay? I mean, Stephen. But anyway,
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, because I know what you're thinking, but let's keep it nice and appropriate for the rest of the show. But
I'm always appropriate.
Yeah. But anyways, Kathy Gallas, my friend, it's here, and we have a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. But before we do that, we also have a whole lot of very exciting things to tell you guys. And Steven, you got to tell people what you're up to because there's big things coming up for you.
Yes. Well, a week from today is the premiere of the documentary Lady of the Dunes. It's premiering April 1st and April 2nd. April 1st in Dennis and April 2nd in P-Town. And I am part of that documentary, the first documentary that I'm in. And it is just amazing. It's amazing? Yes, it's very amazing.
We'll tell people what it is.
Well, Lady of the Dunes is the oldest unsolved crime in Massachusetts, and it was a woman that was found in July of 1974. Nobody knows. That's why she's called Lady of the Dunes, because her body was found in the dunes off of Race Point Beach. A little girl walking her dog found her, and so they never identified the body. They never identified the killer. And Frank Durant, who is really amazing, decided that he was going to do a documentary on Lady of the Dunes and wanted some mediums to be part of this, and I was selected for one of the mediums. So I was able to film just about a year ago in April 2021. And in P-Town, Elix, you were there, and we had a great time, and now it is getting ready to be premiered, and I have been on Cloud 9, I don't know, for weeks, knowing that this is coming. So it's the P-Town Theater is sold out. That's the April 2nd. That's at 7 p.m. It's been sold out for a couple of weeks. And the matinee, which is April 1st in Dennis, Mass, that is at 12:30. And I think there's still tickets left. However, I haven't checked. That theater is bigger, so you may be able to get tickets there.
So how exciting is that, Stephen, that finally we're going to get to see the documentary, because we haven't seen it. So we don't really know, ultimately what's going to, what the end result is. But I do know that you actually wrote a note from Lady of the Dunes.
Yes, I did. So I last April, right before I was going to start filming, I went the day before by myself to Race Point Beach, and I meditated and asked Lady of the Dunes to come to me. And one of my MOs as a medium, which is very different, and you can check that out on my website, stephenthemedium.com, is I do what's called whisper in a note. So I actually ask your loved ones in spirit to step forward, and they start dictating to me what they want me to write in the note. And I use this software, which is amazing, that I not only scan the note, but you also have me in a video that's part of the email or part of the software, and I explain every single sentence. I explain the emotions. If it was your mom stepping forward, what your mom said, was she laughing, was she crying, and explain to the best of my abilities. And I just started that. I don't even think it's been a month, right? It's been pretty amazing. So, and that's my MO. And just very, very quickly, I did a note for someone, and I got an email yesterday. I think it was pretty phenomenal. I showed Elix this morning that she emailed me and said, Well, the note was from her dad, and the note said in one part of the note, I must bring up the B name, something it's sounding like Bob or Brian, and the 4, and put quotation marks around the 4. And she emailed me after she received the note and said that she realized what her dad was saying because she went through ancestry, she found her half brother that her dad had placed for adoption. Now, the dad is the one that dictated the note to me, making her dad have not 3 children, but 4. And the half brother's name is Brad, and that they had just met this past Thursday or Wednesday for the first time. So the dad actually put in this note those 2 amazing hints of the B name connected right to that 4. So telling his daughter who got this note, there's 4 of you, not 3.
That's amazing. I personally think the whisper in a note is groundbreaking. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Stephen is my husband, my co-host. He's also a medium, and we're not talking about his size. He speaks to deaf people. He's also an attorney, we should say, but he, at night, or actually at every time during the day, he speaks to deaf people as well. And that whisper in a note is absolutely groundbreaking. And so if you want to hear or know more about it, you got to go to stephenthemedium.com.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
So anyway, Stephen, I'm also getting ready to go to Dallas. So Stephen is also preparing himself for a week of not eating, because if I'm not around, he doesn't eat.
I may die.
He's not going to die because he's probably going to eat peanut butter and jelly every day or cereal. But so if you have any ideas how to feed Stephen next week, because
please.
I'm going to Dallas to meet with clients, and that's exciting. And then after that, we're going to LA. We're going to go to Palm Springs, and then we're going to go to Santa Monica, which is really amazing. I love LA. I can't wait. So a little bit of work next week, and then a whole lot of fun the week thereafter.
That is true.
So now, Stephen, before I bring Kathy in, who is going to be my guest for today.
I'm excited.
I'm so excited, but I want to tell you about how this came about. So as you know, Stephen, we're both in transition. Lindsay Darling, who has been my right hand, and when I tell you right hand, there's no better description for what she does and who she is for me. I've known Lindsay for nearly 20 years. She has followed me and supported me as a healthcare executive, and then she came in and supported me through being in my own business as an executive coach. But one of the beautiful things about working with somebody like Lindsay is that, she's been in the game. She's been looking to expand her own business, her own career, and she is actually doing just that. She's moving on. I'm focusing on her business as a virtual operations manager. And honestly, I couldn't be more proud of her. She is super incredible, super amazing. She's so good at everything that she does. And at the same time, I'm devastated because I am left without, whom I consider my right hand. She does absolutely everything. She also supports you, Stephen. And so that had led me to sort of like that fear of, oh my God, what's next? Dealing with transition. How am I going to go from having Lindsay to this unknown? And, so there was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, it felt like my whole system was disrupted. And, you saw me dealing with all of that. And then all of a sudden, the universe is fabulous. It gives us everything that we want. We just have to ask for it. And that's what I did with your help, Stephen. You always help me, ask and really stay in conversation with our higher power, our universe. And I asked, and then the universe all of a sudden put Kathy Gallus in front of me. And Kathy is also somebody that I've known for many, many years, nearly 20 years as well. And she's been a guest in the show previously. And all of a sudden, there she is. She is also in transition herself, and we found each other. How amazing is that, Stephen?
It's it's just the universe, as you mentioned, Elix. This is how this works. It's the energy.
It really is. So, before we get into talking about transition and how to do that with power, presence, and peace, I want to really acknowledge Lindsay Darlin for the amazing job that she's done. I am forever grateful for who she is, what she's done, what she's provided for me, what she's done for my business. And, of course, she's our friend and she's going to be forever in our lives, but I could not take the time to acknowledge Lindsay for just being so fabulous and so good to both of us for many years.
I was going to say, Elix, that she's not only so talented, but she's just a kind, considerate, compassionate person, and she's helped me. She redid my website, and I love her. And I just, every time you talk about Lindsay and your longevity with her, I just think that in 2008, I was starting a new aspect or business of as an attorney. This is even before I had any clue I was a medium. And if you remember this, Elix, which I know you do, I was sort of using an office that the same building Lindsay was in. And if Lindsay was working and I went in, we would be there for several hours and neither one of us would get anything done.
Nothing done.
I would go in, I'd leave in 4 hours and have nothing done. Zero, because that's who Lindsay is. We would just chat.
Yeah. And even now, every time I'm with her talking business and Steven just crashes our call, I would have to say, okay, go move along, Betty, because you would interrupt our time and then you and Lindsay would go into your girly girl chatty.
Well, I love
stuff.
Lindsay. I mean, how do you not, right?
How do you not? So, Lindsay, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
I hope you're listening, and there's big things, happening to you. The universe is going to bring you everything that you want and then some. So, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to introduce you to my new right hand. I'm going to call her my communications director, but she's going to be a hell of a lot more than that. Kathy Gallus is going to be joining us, and we're going to talk about transition and how to do that with power, presence, and peace. We'll be right back. And hello and welcome back, everyone, to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex. With me, my wonderful co-host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium. So you got Steelex for the next hour. And I am so proud, so happy to introduce you to my guest, Kathy Gallus. Kathy is now the newest member of Team Elex. And honestly, I am beyond myself. I am so happy to have somebody like Kathy. Kathy with me. I've known Kathy for so many years, nearly 20 years, as I said previously. But this is a whole new adventure. Kathy, welcome to my show. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Kathy.
Kathy, so tell people who you are and what you do, because I figure you're going to do a hell of a lot better job than I would do.
Well, I don't know about that. You've been great in the last two, but so as far as me as a person, I actually live in Minnesota, but I lived in Boston for 15 years, which is where I met Elex. I have my own business running digital strategy and consulting, which is what I'm going to be doing for Elex. I'm a tap dancer. I'm a mom, a wife. I do a lot of stuff. And, we're talking, the other day, and, I actually was transitioning my business, and I actually had a coaching call with Elex not too long ago about it, and, not really thinking that me transitioning my business was going to end up with me working for Elex. So, this has just been an interesting journey for sure.
Yeah, and it happened in such an organic way for both of us, because I've been in transition myself, and I was so concerned about what's next for me. Of course, the anxiety, the fear that comes with transition. And then all of a sudden I'm talking to you, and it was like, wow, here we are. So Kathy, what was that conversation like for you? Like, how did that emerge? How did this, conversation for both of us emerge?
Well, I think we just really spoke it into existence without really talking to each other about it. So, last week I actually just said to my husband, and I know we're going to keep using the word transition, but this is actually so true. Really in the last 2 weeks for me, there's been things just leaving and adding to my life. Literal, huge things, like ending long-term, relationships, or with colleagues, or different things like that. Some of them were painful, some of them not. Some of them just ended, but it was just one of those things where I just said to my husband, I was like, you know what? I really need to talk to Elex on a more regular basis. And he was like, that sounds probably like a good idea. And that was just that conversation for the moment, but it kind of was left in my mind. And then all of a sudden last Saturday night at 8 p.m. my time, I get this text from Elex saying, I'm looking for somebody. Do you know anybody? So I was like, this is very interesting. I literally just spoke his name 3 days ago. But that's just kind of how our lives work, I think, independently, and also, how it's worked over the years. I mean, we haven't really, we don't talk all the time, but when we do, it's like we just spoke the day before. So
Yes.
it's just so perfect.
Yeah, and by the way, when we talk about transition, transition shows up whenever we deal with disruptive changes in our lives. So it could be a sudden loss of a job, and now all of a sudden you find yourself having to look for something new, or you find yourself in a new position. It could be a change in relationship. You're no longer with that partner that you have for many years, and you now need to almost rediscover who you are. It could also be illness. Many of us, are confronted by our own illness or the illness of somebody that we love. It could also be, clearly, the pandemic. Over the last 2 years, we've been navigating these unexpected circumstances that has really led us to lots of transition. And Kathy, in your case, you also had to deal with the transition of losing a parent. And one of the conversations that we had, about a year ago, actually, was, you dealing with your mom who had been recently diagnosed, with an illness, and you've lost your mom since then. How has that loss impacted how you deal with transition for yourself?
Wow. That is a really, really big question. It really was one of those things where, we talked about this to you the other day about sometimes there's big things that are fairly obvious that change us, and then there's small things that sometimes we don't see. And I think, obviously, my mom's, being diagnosed with brain cancer and the whole process of that, and then, her passing, that was the big thing. But to be honest, it was all of the little things of how I had to maneuver life and who I had to be as an adult, to be honest, about, I'm not only taking care of my kids, but now I have my mom, who is supposed to be she doesn't take care, but it's like, it's your mom. She's supposed to take care of you. And now the tables are turned because she's unable to. And that transition in my mind, or who you have to become to be that person. And, to be honest, some people can't, and it doesn't mean that they're weak or anything like that, but it took a team of people for me to take care of her. I had a therapist, a spiritual coach. I had you at the ready. I had my husband. I had friends. It was, even though it was quote unquote me, but I really had to step back and say, it's all of these little things that really have transformed me over the last year and a half, not just the event of my mom getting sick and passing, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense, Kathy. And what I hear you say, Kathy, by the way, if you have your volume on, turn it down, because we are hearing. Sure. One of the things that I hear in what you're saying is what we all know when we're dealing with, difficult circumstances that will ultimately lead to transition. These are circumstances that are there's a lot of fear in the background. There's a lot of unknown in the background. There's a lot of uncertainty in the background. And that's why transition for many people, it's very, very difficult. But that's why we're having this conversation today, because we want to talk about how you can have transition with power, presence, and peace. And that is absolutely possible for every single one of us. So first and foremost, let me just say, how we got to define power. I define power as, the possession of control, strength, authority, and influence. And often I define that, my own strength, my own authority, my own influence. Then how do we define presence? Presence is defined as the physical act of being in the now, not in the past, not in the future, but being present now. And Stephen and I talk about how important being in the now is for every single one of us. And then peace, how do we define peace? Peace is defined as that freedom from disturbance, tranquility, harmony of both mind and spirit. So yes, I want you guys to, and I would even argue every single one of us is dealing with some sort of uncertainty and some sort of transition. The question that you want to ask yourself, am I dealing with that, whatever that is for yourself, with power, presence, and peace? And likely the answer may be no, because we've been conditioned as human beings. We're often conditioned to go to our default mechanism. Our default is mechanism is to always assume that something's not going to work out, always go into the negative, always go into that state of fight, flee, protect, defend, when our brain says, hey, you got to be careful, you went through something like this before and it didn't work out, so stay away. So Stephen, I want to let me ask you this question. How have you dealt with transition in your life as well?
Well, I think up until I don't know, the past several years, I don't think I dealt with it at all. I think it was just a lot of fear with just the thought of transition, and to be honest, Felix and Kathy, it stems back to when my dad committed suicide. Just that transition alone, I never actually had, which just affected every part of my life. And as you know, just last year was the first time I had by myself. I had a wake for him, and had that transition, if you will. So spirit, what I do as a profession now, as a medium, spirit has helped me so much because they've given me such a different perspective. And I think, as you both said, any transition, you have to start with the present, and I think you have to already have that. You have to already envision you're already past the transition. You climb the hill and you're in that great place, and you have to feel that to even before you even start the transition. That's how I attempt it.
I think that makes perfect sense. But what we're going to do is let's take a break. When we come back from the break, Kathy, I want us to break down how to deal with transition, how to bring power, how to bring presence, and how to bring peace to whatever transition it is you're dealing with. We'll be right back. And hello and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex, and with me, my wonderful co-host,
Stephen the Medium is here.
And we have my wonderful guest, Kathy Gallus, who's now part of Team Elex. And we're talking about transition and doing so with power, presence, and peace. Now, big transitions usually occurred as a challenge or the hard thing for all of us. But what if we look at these challenges powerfully? If you were present and not looking at the past or the future, would be peace be present? One of the things for me personally, I believe in one of my coaching core values is that language creates a world. Expecting transitions or expecting that transitions are going to be hard will make them hard. How has this showed up for you, Kathy and Stephen?
So I mean, again, it's just exactly like you said. I'm a person that can kind of go to the negative real fast, especially when I'm stressed out. And, even, just taking the example of what you just shared about, my mom's illness, there was all this expectation about how difficult it was going to be. And, I don't think I can handle it. And, she's in a different state and I'm here. And there were all of these details. And then I had my people, because you need those people in your life that kind of snap you out of it and say, but you know what, you've handled difficult things. You don't know how it's going to be. Maybe she has everything set up. Maybe there, because you used to live in that area, there's going to be more people that can help you. There were just all of these different things. And so once I started to shift my expectations, even small, even if it had to be with a certain doctor, like, okay, the expectation is that this doctor is going to be the doctor to help. And once I started doing those things, all of the things started getting a little bit easier. So, obviously, you're still dealing with a major illness and you're dealing with cancer, but there's a lot of moving parts. And if you have the expectations of each moving part being great, it makes the big transition or the big challenge a little bit less so that you can breathe a little bit more. And so that was my experience with that.
Yeah, and I also, I feel that shifting language makes all the difference, because when you shift language, it helps you reframe, it helps you reinvent, it helps you redefine, certain situations or circumstances. Now, if we look at the unknown, which is what many transitions really are, as exciting, what would that bring? What would that make available for all of us? Now, Stephen, you are a master at shifting language, at really creating or really redefining redefining how we look at things. How do you do that, Stephen?
Well, I don't know if I'm a master, and I think it's just there's so much learning, and it's constant learning. I think it's going to be learning until I cross over. But one of the things that that works and helps me so much is just always having that forgiveness next to me. That's very difficult for me and for, I'm sure, a lot of people, that when things happen or something happens and, I want to really come down hard on myself, I have to just pull that forgiveness out of my back pocket and just hope and know that I need to forgive myself. But I think the best thing and I'm teaching a class right now, and I think in both classes so far, I have used the phrase, you don't need to know what's going on backstage. And I have been living by that, just knowing that everything that happens and staying in the present, even if it's something that feels like, oh my God, I made the wrong decision, or this isn't working, or this person's not the right person, I just bring myself back to, I know everything's happening the way it's supposed to, and that I have to remind myself that I don't need to know what's going on backstage. My backstage, they got it, and it's going to turn out positive.
But there's a distinction, though. You're not necessarily saying just, let it be, whatever happens. You actually bring intention into what you want to happen. You're just not necessarily attached.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Intention, energy, and feeling. That's also part of what I was teaching in my class. Those three have to be present. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we want people to walk away with learning to deal with transitions, which again, they're part of all of our lives. Some transitions are harder than others, but we want them to walk away with how to deal with these transitions powerfully, with presence and peace. So let's tackle transitioning powerfully. What would you say, Kathy, is a tip or a tool to give our listeners so that they can deal with a transition in their lives powerfully?
Well, and again, I'm speaking for myself, but the biggest thing for me is to really be aware of what my expectations are, either of myself, other people, or of the thing, of the event. And most of the time, I have extraordinarily high expectations, possibly some that can never be met. But once I'm actually aware that I have those expectations, then I can actually look at that and say, what's probable that's going to happen? And it's possible that, maybe that expectation could happen, but in very difficult times, what I found is if I can lower those expectations a little bit more into the reality rather than perfection, or this is how I want to be in the situation, but what's really needed here, then like ego is out of play, and like there's all these things, and I can just get present to really what I need to do, and it just, the freedom is there. Again, the peace just comes in because there's just freedom to be in the moment and to actually make a bigger difference than if I didn't have those perfectionist expectations of myself.
Absolutely fabulous. For me, and Stephen, this is one that I credit you with, because you've not only taught me how to do it, but you also hold me accountable for making sure that I do it. I think for me, dealing with transition of any kind powerfully starts with a powerful intention to your day, whatever that is. So not only, if you start your day with a powerful intention, but if you have something that needs to get done, you create an intention for that. If you need something that you want to be done, you create that intention, and you sort of live into that intention. You not only speak it, you envision that intention, and then you step into that intention, intentionally, pun intended. What would you say, Stephen?
I completely agree. I use an analogy when again, going back to my class about energy and intention, that they have to go hand in hand. And I use the analogy that pretend your car represents the energy, and which means that your car is a full tank of gas. It's ready to go. And in talking about transition, you want to transition to one place to another, and you sit in the car, you're in your energy, but the key represents the intention, and you need that key to start the car up and to move forward with the transition. And can you do it without the intention, without the key? Sure, you can hotwire the car, but every time you stop, you got to restart it again, and it's just going to eat away at your time, at your transition. So yeah, on the same lines you just said, Elix, same thing.
And I would even invite our listeners to ask themselves, are you using your key, or are you just starting up your car every day by hardwiring the car, like going through the trouble of hardwiring the car? And I would suspect many of us go through the hard way because we're not really trained to use the key. And the keys, by the way, we all have that key. Is within us all the time. So that's tackling dealing with transition powerfully. What does it mean to have presence in transition? Now, when I speak about presence, I'm talking about being in the moment, being present to what is there, know what could be, or looking at the past situation or how that didn't turn out well. Stephen, you are also an incredible advocate about being in the moment, being in the present. What is one way that you can invite our listeners to practice being present, being in the moment?
I think it's the greatest thing is that I tell people, if you can, get out into nature. But let's just go with the nature thing that, pick 5 days, and before you leave for work, say you're in your driveway, go outside, and before you get in the car, look at something, focus on something that's around the driveway, a tree, a bush, it doesn't matter. And just take a minute and just focus on it. Look at a particular, say a leaf, say if you're looking at a bush, look at the leaf, look at the marks on it, look, is there dew on it? How does it differ from the other leaves? Are there other leaves? And just do that for a minute. And the second day of the 5 days, do it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and 5 minutes. And every day you do it, the first day, that 1 minute keeps you in the present for about an hour. And then the second day, when you do it for 2 minutes, it just expands that for 2 hours or 3 hours. But it just starts changing your brain and your mind to understand what the present is. And then before you know it, you can quickly get back there when you get out of the present.
There you go. There you have it. So you guys have an assignment to do. But you know what we need to do now? We need to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to deal with transition and bring peace to that transition. We'll be right back. And hello and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex. With me, the one and only
Stephen, the medium.
Stephen, the medium. The Steelix Spark is complete. And we also have the newest member of Team Elex, Kathy Gallus. Kathy, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And we are talking about transition and how to do so with power, presence, and peace. And so far, this conversation, I mean, I'm listening to both of you and I'm getting so much out of this conversation. So, the next question that we need to tackle is how do we bring peace to transition? Can I transition actually be peaceful? That's the question. Can a big transition actually be peaceful? Kathy, what do you think?
Well, the simple answer is yes. And it is for me personally, that is the hardest of those three. Again, there's chaos everywhere. I think like you said in the beginning of the show, I don't know a single person that's not going through some sort of transition right now. I mean, whether it's small, big, whatever. And, but those big ones, when you have a death or there's, a marriage ends or you have a major move that you weren't expecting or you lost your job or, even if you get a better job, all of these things, are stressful. And again, I think, it's bringing the presence into it and getting present to really what's there, but for me, it's actually active. So I take a lot of deep breaths during the day. And I do a lot of small little, meditations during the day. And that doesn't have to be a big thing, but meditation just means being quiet. So sometimes, I'm go, and I get so excited about things. And then I get to the end of the day and I am just exhausted. And now I have a meditation practice where I know when I've missed a day. I know when it's like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock and I didn't, 10 p.m. and I didn't do that. And, because that piece is missing. And so, yes, I mean, we can actually get through big transitions peacefully, but it is an active, thoughtful thing that we must bring that into our lives or things will just take over our day.
And Mr. Stephen, the medium, I know that everything Kathy spoke is something that you advocate for.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would say we need to do to bring transition, peaceful transition, into our lives?
Well, I think what Kathy said is perfect, and I would just add that. And I'm not saying this to bring it into your universe, but I think it's not a bad thing, going along what Kathy just said is just the understanding that, I almost envision a road and with this transition, and then there's one part of the road that goes off the road, and it's going to be, or potentially could be rocky and could be unsettled, or you could feel restless or anxiety, but just know that it's a snapshot and it will change back to being smooth if it even happens. But I think it's something that's good to, just to keep with you.
And for me, the very simplest way I can answer the question, can a big transition actually be peaceful? I simply say, if you say so. Whatever you speak, whatever you say is how it's going to show up. So just like I said at the beginning, if you say it's going to be hard and difficult, that's how it's going to be, hard and difficult. If you say it's going to be, not necessarily easy, because we don't necessarily expect transitions to be easy, but they can be perhaps effortless, or they can be, peaceful, pun intended. Whatever you speak is exactly how you're commanding the universe to respond. Now, the other question is, what if you find yourself avoiding transitions? And I think many of us, that's what we do. We avoid transitions because we fear how difficult they are. So sometimes we get stuck being in a job that we don't like because we avoid that transition. Sometimes we are stuck with somebody that we no longer, compatible with, because we avoid that transition because we know it may be difficult. It may be something that may be challenging for us. How would you deal with that, Kathy?
That's another one that's a really, I think that we all do that from time to time. I think, we all have, certain levels of what we consider that we'll push through or that are easier than others. We get triggered by different things. But I'm, for myself, I'm very aware of myself, and I know, everybody's at different levels with where they are. But I'm usually pretty clear when I'm avoiding transitions, and the more that I avoid them, the way that I know that I'm doing that, even if I'm just not really conscious to it, is that I start to have more and more breakdowns happen, and things don't move smoothly. So when it's repetitive like that, it's like, why is this dark cloud over me? Why do I keep losing money instead of making money? Why do I keep losing friends instead of gaining the right people? I have to, again, step back. There's the presence again, and get present to my thoughts. What am I saying to myself? What am I saying to the universe? What am I doing? Am I taking a nap instead of making that phone call, that difficult phone call? And really just get responsible for what's going on. And I'm making it sound easy, like I do this every day. Sometimes this takes weeks or months to get through, but for myself, it's like, eventually, if you avoid enough, it will come back at you in some way, shape, or form. So I tend to try to not get it so bad that that other things start to break down. But I really just I just get responsible when I finally get present to what's going on, and once I do that, then things start to be easy, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Stephen, anything else that you would add?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say for myself, it depends on what where you are in life and what you're looking for. Like you mentioned, Elix, if it's something to do with the job, I think we're all blessed with, our minds can go to that creative box. And I think that's something that if you're stuck in a job, you just, you pull that creative card out of your back pocket, just trying to figure out exactly, not creative, I'm sorry, curiosity card, and just what you're curious about. And it just, even if you write down on a piece of paper, at least it starts the transition, as well as it goes back to, again, the positive chatter and the intention and the energy and the feeling all together combined.
And I second that, both of you. So let's close with this. If a listener finds themselves in a big transition now and they're struggling, what's that one small thing that they could do to find themselves with power, presence, and peace in that situation? Kathy, one thing that they should do.
One thing they can do, then again, this is what I do. I reach out to people in my life that I trust, and sometimes just start having a conversation. Maybe just say that you're struggling or whatever, but it's and if you don't have that, it might be a therapist, or it could even be journaling. If you don't feel comfortable reaching out to somebody, but for me, it's just getting it outside of myself. Again, writing a song, journaling, talking to someone, or just reaching out. That's what I would say.
How about you, Stephen? One thing that they could do to deal with that transition powerfully?
I would say to pick a time during the day, any time that is allocated solely for you. A time that you get a bath bomb, you go into the bathtub and take a bath, or whatever your muse is, whatever you love, but just something that to reset and to start from your foundation, start from your being, your soul, your conscious, so that it all starts from you, and everything else that when you take that next step or that first step, if you're not on board with yourself, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Awesome. And for me, I would say envision yourself enjoying the optimal result, whatever that is that you're seeking, whatever that is, whatever the opposite of that transition is that you want, envision it. And envision it as vividly as possible. Because the moment you envision it, you're sending those messages to the brain. The brain does not know the difference between imaginary and real. And envisioning something sends signals to the brain that is actually happening. and then your body begins to respond as if actually happening, and you'll begin to actually feel as if it's actually happening. It's really real. So this has been a wonderful conversation. Kathy, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for taking on this new role with me. I cannot tell you, I'm so excited. I know Stephen the Medium is just as excited because he's going to be watching very carefully because he's got stuff going on himself. So you may get two for the price of one.
Hey, that's all good. That's all good. And it truly is an honor, and it is, it honestly, it's kind of woo-woo, but I mean, it is one of those things of you really, when something has integrity and you speak it in the world, again, I didn't say I'm going to work for Elix, but, I spoke your name and whatever was there, showed up the way it was supposed to. So it's really, really exciting, and I really appreciate the opportunity for being on the show and to do some collaboration with you.
You're very welcome. And Kathy, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you? The easiest way is just to put my name into Google, but it's hard to spell my last name. But it's Kathy with a K and then Gaalaas as in Sam. All of my stuff is there, and you can find me on LinkedIn, and it is linkedin.com/in/Kathy G. And like I said, you can find me pretty much anywhere online. Fabulous. And Stephen, a reminder that you have your upcoming premiere, and how can people find you?
Well, just like the song, you just call out my name.
Kathy, honest to God, this is what I deal with. This is not fake. It's as real as it gets.
Stephen the Medium, that's it. You can find me everywhere.
Everywhere. And if anyone is in the Dennis area, can they still go to that premiere?
I think so. The P-Town Theater is sold out, but I think the Dennis Theater still has. It's Cape Cinema in Dennis.
Awesome. And for me, you can find me at Coach Elix and look up for new, exciting ways that Kathy is going to make me look even better than I look today. So, so listen, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Stephen. We'll be back not next week and not the week after, because I'm going to be away next week. The week after, Stephen and I are in LA. So 2 weeks, we'll be back with an amazing show. So we'll see you then. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.